From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your afternoon update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, son.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Well, we've got more of the same today for everyone that we saw yesterday. And the thing is, we take a look at this, and we've got mainly below normal highs here through the weekend. Now, yes, it did get up to a 101 yesterday in Redding, which is normal. I think today, maybe about the same, about 100 degrees here for Redding and Red Bluff. Head south end of the valley, a little bit cooler. And of course, for the mountains, in the upper 80s and low 90s. But bottom line, even through the rest of the week, even in the valley, we're struggling to make it into the triple digits. And when we look down the line here, end of the week, this weekend, even into early next week, no major heat waves heading our way anytime soon. So looks like this more manageable heat, it's going to stick around for a while. All right, take a look at the fire outlook here for today. It's critical for extreme eastern California, not northern California, not to mention also just to the west of that elevated. Going into tomorrow, just that elevated for the same area. And that's the reason why the National Weather Service has issued a fire weather watch from 1 p.m. until 9 p.m. today for eastern Modoc and eastern Lassen counties. Again, mainly the gusty winds and the dry conditions. Now, we have to remind ourselves, even when we don't have the watches and warnings out there, fires can still start and they can still spread rapidly. The winds are going to be a little gusty at times for everyone. Now, we look at the fire potential here for your Wednesday, and that's today. We have the brown indicating moderate risk. We have the yellow indicating a low risk. And again, this is one of those things where this is just to give you an idea of what the conditions are like. Bottom line is this. For the rest of the fire season, we're at least going to be yellow or brown for most of Northern California, with the exception of the coast. When we start getting a little bit more concerned with extreme heat, and of course also those gusty winds and maybe even some lightning strikes, that's when you start seeing oranges and reds on the map. Now, we have yet to see that on this map here, but this is kind of one of those situations where conditions may be a little bit better as you head off to the north and west, but kind of just status quo elsewhere. All right, so we take a look at the winds, and you can see that we're about 15 miles per hour around the noon hour for Alturas and Susanville, about 20, and about 10 to 15 miles per hour for the valley. Again, nothing unusual, nothing alarming. Now, we take you into this afternoon and evening. They're beginning to pick up, especially off to the east, where we saw where the elevated and the critical fire danger is off to the east. Because, again, we have to remember part of this equation is it's very dry out there. So when you have winds gusting in excess of 25 to 30 miles per hour, you've got to be a bit concerned. And of course, you can see those winds not as strong, but still a little gusty at times, even for the valley. Then we go to about 8 o'clock tonight, and you can see again it's beginning to die down a little bit here, but there's a little spot there where it's pretty extreme winds, and that's why we had that fire weather watch. Now, we take you into tomorrow morning. You see how the winds die down? That's normal. We begin to see those winds kind of relax a bit, get a bit of a break, and then the winds pick back up again for your Thursday afternoon. Once again, somewhere in that mid-25 mile, mid-20 range as far as the eastern mountains are concerned. And again, a little breezy, gusty at times for the valley as well. So again, we talk about the equation of the humidity. You can see just how dry it's going to be here. We take you into this afternoon, and you can see 10 to upwards of 15% relative humidity for the eastern mountains, and maybe even a little bit lower than that actually in the valley. Now we see that recovery for tomorrow morning. There you can see the green indicating, of course, the higher relative humidity levels, a little bit less in that recovery, but still in that 32 to 33% range for Susanville and Quincy. Now, let's take you into Thursday afternoon tomorrow. Still very dry, 14-15% for Redding and Red Bluff, and about 15 to close to 20% for Alturas and Susanville. So again, that bottom line is we got a little windy out there, pretty dry. We've got to be extremely careful when it comes to fire danger. Now, the smoke Yeah, I mean, it's not a major concern. You can see those winds blowing from the south, so that'll take the Wonder Fire, any smoke coming from the Wonder Fire, and that'll be pushed northward later this afternoon. But overall, I mean, you look at all of Northern California, we're not even looking at much in the way of haze, with the exception of a little bit of that smoke from the Wonder Fire and a little bit of haze out into Del Norte County. Now let's take you into your Thursday, and of course some of that haze and smoke begins to come back in for 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, but by the afternoon, in the evening, just a little bit more of that haze, but that's even beginning to dissipate going into Thursday afternoon. All right, take a look at that trend here for the next 10 days, and you can see we're actually going to be dropping below 100 degrees, even for Redding, as early as tomorrow. We'll keep it that way all the way through the weekend, and then temperatures start to kind of go back up, but still only about 100 degrees. And I think by the end of next week, we could be looking at better chances of temperatures actually starting to climb, and maybe even climbing more than that 103 that you saw. But that's something we'll have to talk about in the days to come, because there is a trend leaning toward the potential for a bit of a heat wave heading our way toward the end of next week. But we'll get into that in the next few days. Here's what we've got here in store for us today, though. Temperatures about 100 degrees for Redding and Red Bluff. Yeah, it could touch 100. Could even get up to 101 for Redding, but we'll keep it around 100. 96 degrees for Chico. For the mountains, we're talking 90 for Mount Shasta City, 92 Etna, 90 in Alturas. And for the eastern mountains, right around 90. 89 for Bernie, 92 degrees for Susanville. So you can see the monsoon moisture still down to our south and east. You can see the storm systems riding up to our north. It's these storms here that are keeping our temperatures down a bit. But another thing I'm monitoring is that monsoon moisture, and it looks like now we could be looking at the potential for more monsoon moisture coming in sometime around Monday of next week. Now, I'm not terribly concerned about thunderstorms developing from this. This is more of a mid and high level monsoon moisture kind of intrusion here. So what that will mean for us is we'll probably see a few more high clouds coming in on Monday. We'll probably also feel a bit more humid out there, but I don't anticipate any thunderstorms for the mountains to develop. But you can see some thunderstorms over Southern California, and of course fires will be a concern down there, and of course you're talking about lightning strikes with that monsoon moisture east of us as well. And then it looks like that moves out, and we're looking at more in the way of sunshine here for next Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, so here's your forecast for your Wednesday. Temperatures, as I mentioned, could touch 100 degrees for Redding and Red Bluff, otherwise in the mid to upper 90s southward in Chico and Oroville, and in the upper 80s, low 90s for the higher elevations. Now your 7-day forecast is calling for those temperatures basically staying in the upper 80s to low 90s for Mount Shasta and Alturas. Off in the eastern mountains, places like Susanville, for example, I think you'll most likely stay in the 90s, but just barely. We're talking 90 to 91 all the way through Sunday, and then ticking up a little bit for Monday and Tuesday of next week. And taking a look at your 7-day outlook for the valley, well, yeah, it's going to be about 100 degrees for Redding and Red Bluff today, but temperatures struggling to reach that triple-digit mark as we go into Thursday through Sunday, and then we're about 100 degrees again for Monday, Tuesday of next week. But Chico, man, look at that. I mean, you're not looking at any triple-digit heat, either today, tomorrow, Friday, through the weekend, and not to mention even into early next week.